Guys, welcome back to another video. Hope y'all having a great day. And with no further ado, let us get into my AFC West predictions as we are almost done. We have the NFC West tomorrow, and then I'll be doing my full season predictions right before the season kicks off, September 9th, which is 2 weeks from today. So it's getting closer and closer to the season beginning. So starting off with Denver, they go on the road to the Chiefs, which will be a good game, but I'm gonna say Denver gets the win. I am a little lower, I feel like, than most people on Denver, but I do think the Chiefs will be a little sloppy out the gates, especially with Mahomes still coming off that injury. And I do think that like this offense isn't going to be, as potent as we're used to it, at least not until like later on in the season. So I think Denver could get the win there. I do think they beat the Jags in week 2 to start 2-0. Should be another interesting game after last year when Jacksonville went into Mile High late in the year and pulled off that upset. Sorry, and gonna have them losing to the Rams. I mean, LA is just a dominant team, and it's hard to find very many losses on that schedule, but this could be one of them. Denver at home, LA on the road, possibly could be one. I think they bounce back on the road against San Fran. I am not high on the Niners this year. I think this could be another year where they disappoint and it's just a rough season for them. I think they lose to the Chargers. I think LA's offense will be much improved. I know Tyler Biadasz just was ruled out for the year. So another huge blow on that offensive line. But I think Mike McDaniel will have this offense playing much better. I know the defense might be a little regressed with Jesse Minter gone, but still should be really good. And I do like this Chargers team to be much improved offensively, which should help this team out. I think they lose to Seattle. I know Thursday night game at home, but I like Seattle a lot. I think this team very much is really talented and sorry. You're gonna have them losing. I do think they beat the Cardinals. I'm not sure where Arizona wins a game. Maybe it's like a late season game, but right now I'm not high on Arizona. And then I think the Chiefs. I had Denver winning in Arrowhead. I think the Chiefs winning Mile High. The Broncos are not sweeping them. Um, the Chiefs are definitely going to win at least one of those games this upcoming year. And I think I'll have the Broncos, which a lot of road wins in so far in this schedule, which is crazy to say, but when you're a really talented team, you usually win a lot of road games. So moving on to off of their bye week, which 1, 2, 3, 4 losses. So they'd be 5-4, which might seem like a disappointment, but I think they will get it rolling. I think they beat the Raiders. I think Vegas will be better this upcoming year, but I definitely think the Broncos more talented. I think they go into Pittsburgh on that Black Friday game and get the win there. I think they beat the Dolphins and Jalen Waddles. I guess not return to Miami, but against his old team, they should beat the Jets. Not high on New York. I think they'll be better this year, but Denver is definitely the better team. Um, this Raiders game, I think Denver wins it. Which would be which would be 5 consecutive wins. So they would go from 5-4 to 10-4 according to these projections. I do think they lose to the Bills. It should be a fun, entertaining game. I think I had New England also winning that, which would be two tough blows back to back against two teams they'll more than likely have to face in the playoffs. And then I think they split with the Chargers, finishing at 11-6. I think, yeah, 11-6. Should be a really good year for Denver. Don't think they'll be as great as they were last year just because they won so many one-score games and they were just like in so many close games that like Denver is never going to lose a lot of those close games this year. But they're still really talented on both sides of the ball. I do think Davis Webb, now as the offensive coordinator, will give this team more of a potent offense that they didn't really have last year. Like I do think, as great as Sean Payton is as a head coach, I do think he kind of was holding them back, and I think with Davis Webb, the offense will be more efficient, and I think they will return to the playoffs once again. And geez, I had them going 4-4 at home, 7-2 on the road. It's crazy. Moving on to the Chargers, who finished second in this division. Do think they'll be improved. I do think this team will be much improved from last year. So kicking it off, I think they beat the Cardinals. Should be a great game to see how this offense looks. Like Justin Herbert could have like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns by the end of this game. I think they just get up to a 2-0 start against the Raiders. Vegas, I think will be improved, but I definitely think they're still ways away from being anywhere close to competing with the rest of their division. This is definitely going to be a multi-year rebuild for the Raiders, and it'll be seen this upcoming year when this team is not very good, especially early on in the season. Chargers at the Bills. I believe I had Buffalo getting the win here. To against LA. LA at Seattle in week 4. Should be a fun one. Geez. They have a tough stretch. At Buffalo, at Seattle versus Denver, at KC, then a bye week at the Rams versus Houston and at Baltimore. That is a tough stretch for the Chargers. You know what? I'm going to say the Chargers get the win. I think in Seattle, I mean, we saw a couple teams last year, the Bucks, go into Seattle and get a huge win. I think the Chargers definitely could. I think the Chargers, Chiefs. You know, we'll see the Chiefs get that win. I mean, LA won both games last year, which were extremely close. Especially the game in Arrowhead where they won 16-13 when Mahomes tore his ACL. So KC, I think, could, be out for some revenge. Sorry, I think they lose to the Rams. I believe I had them beating the Texans. I think so. I think I had Houston losing this game, but you guys can let me know down in the comments. And I think they beat the Ravens to sit at 5-4. Not a great record, but I do think they beat the Jets to get to 6-4. Should beat the Patriots. That Sunday night game, Thanksgiving weekend, should be a fun one to watch. I think they beat the Bucks. I don't know where the teams right here. I just couldn't think of it to get to 8-4. The Raiders game could be interesting, but I think the Chargers get the win. They've kind of owned the Raiders, especially recently, I feel like. So I definitely think the Chargers will continue to win. Niners, or the Chargers hosting the Niners. I think they get a win there. I think they beat the Dolphins. And then I think they'll split with the Chiefs to finish with a record of 12-5, which really good team. Should be a competitive team this upcoming season. And I think this offense will be much better than it has been under Greg Roman. Hopefully with a healthy offensive line for the most part, Herbert will be able to play like he has been. And I think a lot of the people who hate on him and say he's not that good, mainly critique him because he hasn't won a playoff game when outside of the Texans game, back in 2025, I feel like his other 2 playoff outings, it really wasn't his fault the Chargers lost. And I definitely think this upcoming year definitely could be the first playoff win or multiple of Herbert, and he can prove that he can win in the playoffs. He just needs to have, a healthy offensive line, good coordinator to help him maximize his success. One of the Chiefs, who finished third after a disappointing year, but will be back this upcoming year. And I think they do lose to Denver in week 1, but I think they get a huge win against the Colts. I think Indy will not be good this year. I think they'll be respectable on the defensive end. It's just the offensive side. If Daniel Jones isn't healthy, we've seen with Anthony Richardson, that even Riley Leonard, the offense is not that great. I think they get a win in Miami to get to 2-1. This game at the Raiders could be tricky. I feel like because the Raiders, I feel like this could be a situation where like Vegas definitely has the um chance to pull off an upset, but the Chiefs have kind of owned their division for a while, so I think it'll stay like that. Which 3-1, 4-1 if they beat the Chargers. I do think they lose to Seattle, the Kenneth Walker revenge game in Lumen Field, but I think Seattle does get the win there. I, I do think they beat the Jets to put them at what 6-2. I want to say so. KC clearly really good. They beat the Falcons to get to 7-2. This is a really easy stretch right there. The Cardinals game, sorry, I think KC wins that one, but 4 or 5 huge, really 6 huge games in a row between the Bills game to the Chargers game. So a really tough stretch for KC down the second half of the season. I think the Bills do get the win there. They've kind of owned the Chiefs in the regular season for the most part. Um, Even like at Arrowhead, at home, at Highmark Stadium, the Bills have kind of won those games. Chiefs, Rams, Trent McDuffie against his old team. I think the Rams get the win there. I do think they bounce back with a win in Cincinnati. Um, the first time Burrow and Mahomes will play since 2024 in Arrowhead when controversial call went the Chiefs' way. I think they do beat New England. Not high on the Niners, so I think KC gets the win there late in the year. And then I think they beat the Raiders to finish with a record of 12-5. Second place in this division. Isn't that crazy? 3 double-digit winnings teams, which all 3 can win double-digit games and make the playoffs. So definitely think this will be a very competitive division between these 3, and I think all 3 could win this division. It's just a matter of the schedules and how these teams perform in those close situations. And then finally the Raiders, who I currently do not have winning a single um division game, which we'll see. Sometimes you do see teams go winless in the division, so we'll see. Maybe they pull off an upset. Who knows? I think they beat the Dolphins in week 1. Vegas is a better team. It is a battle of first-year head coaches, Clint Kubiak, Jeff Hafley, so it will be fun to see that. I think the Saints get a win there. I think the Pats win that one, which would drop them to 1-4. Sorry, I think the Bills win here. I think the Rams will dominate this one. I think the Jets lose. I think the Raiders get the win there. Second win of the season. Do you think the Niners or you know what? I'm gonna say the Raiders pull off the upset, which might seem crazy, but you know, in San Francisco, this Raiders team might be failing themselves after nice win against the Jets. They could get another win there. I do think they lose to Seattle. Sorry, it'll be a tough year. I think they beat the Browns to get that win. I do think they lose to Tennessee. I am higher on the Titans. I think this team definitely will be improved, and then I think they'll beat the Cardinals. To finish with a record of I think 5-12, which is an improvement from last year. I think this Raiders team definitely has much better of a roster construction to where I definitely think um, they will win more games, be more competitive, kind of like they were a couple years ago in 2024. Last year was a disaster where they just were not very good for most of the year. And yet, these are my AFC West standings. I have the Chargers just narrowly edging out the Chiefs for first place in this division, going 12-5. Definitely could see either team or even Denver winning this division. It's just a very competitive division. I think all 3 make the playoffs, which Might seem like a hot take, but I just feel like all three are very good. They're very disciplined, and I just feel like all three definitely will make this play. Will be competitive, make the playoff. The Chiefs finishing also 12-5. Just I think it's probably due to um, like winning percentage or home and away, like something like that. But both teams finished 12-5. The KC will bounce back. A healthy Mahomes, a more improved run game. I am concerned with the wide receivers just because, like Travis Kelsey, I know he's considered Mr. Reliable, but he has not had the greatest last couple of seasons. And then the receivers they have, Worthy, Rice, um, trying to think who else. Like, it's not a great cast of receivers, but Mahomes has been able to do it with not that great supporting cast. So I do think early on, I think they could more rely on the running game and a good defense. And then as the season progresses, when Mahomes gets healthier, we definitely could see vintage Mahomes playing, amazing as they head into the playoffs. Denver, I have finishing 11-6. Do think they'll regress from last year, especially a lot of those one score wins will definitely flip because that's what always happens. Like a team that wins so many one score games one year and then loses so many. It's just how it works because you can't always win those close games. But this team defense gives them a high ceiling. I think the offense will be much improved, especially the additions they've made with Jalen Waddle, Jonah Coleman in the draft to pair up with RJ Harvey, and they obviously have one of the best offensive line groups in the league. And then the Raiders, sorry, got you finishing 5-12. Should be a really good team, but I think the Raiders are a couple years away where it's like they need to really build a roster that can compete with the rest of these teams because the rest of these teams have great coaches, great rosters, great quarterbacks. Like all three are set up for success. While the Raiders hopefully have their head coach and QB, but the roster just is not there. But I definitely think in a couple years the Raiders could definitely be competitive and really give these teams, not just in their division, but in the entire AFC, a run for their money once they get there. But hope you guys enjoy the video. Um, hope you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Check me out on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram if you guys want to, know what I'm doing on a daily basis. And hope you guys enjoy the video. I'll catch you for tomorrow with my NFC West predictions, which will finish up my division predictions. And then Friday will be my college football playoff predictions as the season starts this Saturday with week 0. And then next week we'll be full in with rankings, picks for college football with week 1 next week. And we'll be full into picking games and recapping the week because the season is right around the corner. So hope you guys enjoy the videos. Let me know in the comments, what you guys enjoy so I can get more of that stuff out to you. And until next time, hope you guys have a great day and bye.